Well, we just had a blackout, a power outage in Spain, and I was thinking about going without basic stuff, like not having these luxuries that we kind of take for granted these days, right? Like power, right? A hot shower, car, all those things we now have that we forget about them, right? We forget about how lucky we are to have them, although they create problems as well, right? I mean, it's not all perfect. But I was thinking about this topic and this phrase that I heard some time ago. It goes like this: enough is as good as a feast, right? And I thought to myself, well, but what is enough? I mean, what is enough for me? What's enough for me might not be enough for someone else, right? So maybe for some people it's never enough, right? So and it's also human nature to want to climb mountains and to break records and all that. I mean, I think that's also something that we are naturally inclined to do, right? It seems. Not maybe not everybody, but there's always people that are high achievers, that want to excel, and perhaps that gives you a purpose. So I was wondering whether there is a time in which you have enough and you're happy with enough. This is what I was wondering. In my case, yeah, for the most part, I think I can say that I have enough, and I've had enough for a number of years, right? But yeah, there's always that temptation, right? There's always that feeling that tells you, yeah, you should get more, you should try harder, you should do this, you should do that. And then when things like this happen, when the power goes out, you're like, well, this is what I really need. I mean, this is really the essence. I mean, these are the really important things, and not these other dreams we pursue that are just many times just vanity, I guess. But I guess we can help ourselves. I mean, we're gonna keep doing what we do. I mean, it's very hard to be grateful. I mean, to be fully aware of what you have. Perhaps the Gestalt people are right. That we always see things in the context of a background or in the context of some kind of contrast, right? Yeah, perhaps we need a contrast to appreciate something. Maybe things are not fully appreciated just when you have nothing else to compare them to. And maybe that is the kind of tragedy. Which means that maybe you have to know what it's like to be on the other side to appreciate the opposite side. Maybe there's no way around it, because I see people, and I used to be one of them, I guess, not too long ago, where I would have things, many things really, to be grateful for, but I would just complain, and not be satisfied. And I see this, when I see it in older people, it's a bit sadder. It's a bit more unfortunate because you would think that somebody older would already have their shit together, right? I sometimes see this in older people and I'm like, man, I guess getting old is not a choice, but maturing is a choice, maybe. Yeah, so I see this around me, and I used to myself be like that, I think, to a large extent. And now I catch myself. I mean, it's impossible not to do this. Like we always do it, but I always try not to go overboard. Yeah, because it's very sad to see. abundance, or somebody experiencing abundance and still being miserable. You know, it's like that expression I heard once. Somebody told me, you know, in Spanish, God gives bread to those with no teeth. And I thought, wow, that's a great expression, because I've seen it many times, even in my own situation here, right? So there's a lot of African people trying to cross the sea, trying to cross over to Spain, right? And here I am. You know, it was not that hard for me to be here. I mean, it was not so easy either, but it was definitely easier for me than it was for these African guys who risked their lives to come here, right? And some of them are, you know, they're not here legally. They have to do all kinds of things to survive, you know, physical labor, risky stuff. People look down on them. And yet I'm here, just chilling, you know. I'm not, I could, you could argue that I'm not taking full advantage of what I could do here in Spain. You know, I'm kind of comfortable, you know. So, from that guy's point of view, from an African guy's point of view, trying to come to Spain, risking his life, God is giving me bread and I have no teeth, right? So there's a pecking order. Now, from my point of view, when I see these wealthy people here, like really wealthy or significantly wealthy, complaining about stupid shit, well, I think the same thing, right? But yet, from another guy's perspective, I am doing the same thing, probably. Yeah, that's very sad. But at the same time, you know, it is what it is, man. I mean, some of these people were born wealthy or somewhat wealthy. It's not their fault. It's not my fault either. I mean, and it's not an African guy's fault to have been born in Africa in those conditions, you know. Maybe there is such a thing as fate or destiny. Maybe I'm starting to believe that is that there's a lot of truth to that, at least in the sense that that very thing that determines a lot of that most of your life. I mean, think about it. Where you're born, your parents, at when you're born, which time in history? Because if you were born in the 50s, well, that was a good time. If you're born now, yeah, you have AI, you have all these things, but you probably cannot afford a house. Whereas in the 50s, you could, right? In the U.S. at least. So maybe there is such a thing as luck. Although you can also argue that they say that preparation and opportunity, when they meet, that's luck. Yeah, but not everybody has a chance to be prepared. Not everybody has the same opportunities. You know, if you're a guy in Africa starving, or even in the developed world, there are people that are born in very bad situations, and although you can get out of that, there are people that get out of that. It's much harder to get out of that than if you were born into wealth. Now, if you're born in that situation, and if you're wealthy, there are other problems. For example, you don't have to try, you know? It's all given to you. So I know people like that they're like, yeah, I know I have potential. I know I can do better, but why try? I have a home. I have food. I'm taken care of, even if my parents die. My grandparents have property. I mean, I'm set. I'm set for life, really. I mean, for the most part. So why try? You know, so it's a bit of a catch-22. Now, someone like me, I think I'm somewhere in the middle, right? I wasn't born into wealth, but I wasn't born into misery either, you know, like it was somewhere in the middle. And perhaps that allowed me to tap into certain abilities I didn't know I had, and that was good. But it was because it was necessary, not because I'm so motivated and I'm so special and I have so much discipline. I mean, I do have discipline, but I think the discipline came as a consequence of a need to be disciplined. I had to be disciplined, and also perhaps it's part of my personality. I mean, because I'm somewhat ambitious in some ways. I think that also has to do with luck in a sense. I kind of take after my mother. My mother is very stubborn in a good way, in a bad way too. But she's very that's a very good quality of hers. She when she wants to get something, she's very very persistent. Not that my father isn't, but my father is a bit more careful, I would say. He has taken chances, but my mother, I think, is a bit more persistent, like more in some ways she's kind of fearless. She's taken chances, and I think I have that kind of personality where I'm willing to take chances, and I think that's genetic. I don't think I'm like that just because I work hard at being like that. I think it's just a natural tendency in me, and I probably get it from my mother, and I'm lucky. I didn't get her looks. Unfortunately, I didn't get my mother's looks because my mother's pretty good looking. I got my father's looks. Well, okay. I mean, I think it's a good combination. Even though I'm not too easy, and the eye. Yeah, I think I got a good combination of genes. I would say so. I think I was. I did the work, and then I took the holiday. Whereas there's people that take the holiday first and then they do the work. I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense to me. But I didn't do the work because I was so talented and disciplined. I was kind of forced to do it. So part of it was the need, and the other part was the vanity or the sense of pride that I think it also comes from my mom. Well, from both. But my mom has that drive, She has that drive, and I think I have, in that sense, I have her personality. I can be very driven when something is really important to me, which that's when I was 26, 27, there were two things at least that were very important to me, and I was very successful at achieving those things, accomplishing those things. Namely, having stability, having a place where I can work legally, right? And also, well, the other one I can't really talk about it. Yeah, whatever. It's not that important. But that it's a kind of achievement, really, if you think about it. Now, from the point of view of somebody else, it's not an achievement, because going back to the wealthy people I know here, they were born with that passport, right? I had to sweat tears and blood, man. It was, well, I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was a fucking, man, I'm telling you, man, I appreciate that passport, man. That Spanish passport I have, oh, I cherish that with my heart, man. That was hard for me to get, man. And it wasn't hard in the sense that I had to spend a lot of money. I had to spend a lot of time and patience to get that passport. So now I'm very appreciative, and I see the difference, because in the eyes, from that guy's perspective, the guy who was born into wealth, he was born with the right passport. He doesn't have to work. He doesn't know what it's like not to have that passport. But I cannot blame him. He was lucky, just like I am lucky, compared to an African guy, right? It is just the way it is. You cannot blame people for their luck or lack of luck. I mean, it is what it is, and maybe that's the way it should be, because perhaps, as they say, nothing bad happens that is not motivated by something good, and vice versa. They say that in Spanish. I'm starting to believe in that. Do you know how those in engineering? I don't know much about engineering, but those what are they called? That mechanism in which the thing turns to the right, and as it turns to the right, the other one turns to the left, and that makes the whole thing work. Well, maybe this is how it is here. You need tragedy to promote or to facilitate progress, and then perhaps progress can at some point cause tragedy, or cause, when people are very comfortable, you then start going to the other extreme. You become, you don't exercise, you don't develop your talents. Now when you have a need, you do. So you see, it's like a pendulum. Maybe this guy that I'm talking about, when he has children, if he doesn't get his shit together, maybe, as they say, that when people inherit money, it doesn't last. It doesn't usually last past the third generation, because the third generation doesn't know what it's like to earn that money. So they're just gonna squander it. They're just gonna, they're not gonna take care of it. So, to wrap it up, enough is as good as a feast. Yeah, but to have enough, it depends what you mean by enough. I mean, for some people you gotta struggle, and for some people it's not enough. Your enough is not enough. I mean, I'm not saying anything new here, right? I'm not. But think about it. Everybody, and that is a good thing, I think, in the end, because if you're, let's just think hypothetically. I mean, if you're a guy who's never satisfied, well, okay, you're driven, but perhaps there's something to be said for having peace of mind, and maybe that is a harder thing to achieve. To have peace and quiet, like a monk almost. That guy that lit himself on fire, and he didn't even flinch. Have you seen that monk? I think he was a Buddhist monk. I've seen it. The guy doesn't even flinch. So to have that kind of control, man, that is probably more valuable than money. Although money is very important, because a lot of people that are very successful with money, they make stupid mistakes. Look at the guy. I don't want to say any names, but look at the guy who just got in trouble for dating a 20-year-old. He couldn't keep it in his pants, and then now he's being sued for sexual assault and all this, and oof, I cannot say that, huh? Or can I? Well, whatever. Like maybe just like you can have a blessing in disguise, you can also have a curse in disguise, maybe. I don't know. So maybe enough is as good as a feast, but it's up to you to recognize that something is enough. Maybe you need to have the maturity to see it, and maybe that's where the true magic happens, maybe. Anyway, I hope you don't run out of power. And if you do, say your prayers and hope for the best. Bye bye.